Hello, everybody. Good Thursday to you. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. We're so glad to be with you today. I'm joined by my dear friend who normally joins me on Fridays. This is the great Matt Hladek, who's from Men's Journal. We love having Matt here. We're going to dig in today on a lot of Raiders stuff. But first, the story of the day. The FBI does an investigation that implements a lot of NBA activity as far as it applies to gambling. Remember, people are innocent until proven guilty. We understand that. We're not. But the point of the matter is then recently, I think it was yesterday, it may have been the day before, the NCAA rules, college players can bet on pro games. When I saw that, it made no sense to me. Now we're seeing this. Matt, I keep hearing this, that, the NFL is the number one sport. It's not even close. They own all the rest. But now college is letting players bet on pro sports, which I understand it's a legal thing. So whether it's right or wrong, it's legal. So it's kind of hard to keep people from doing something legal. This is a huge mess. And let's talk about, there's no evidence, there's no even suspicion that this is bleeding over into the NFL. I'm not saying that it is. But now with college players being able to bet on pro sports, you see what's happening in basketball. There's so much here. Break it down for us. Give me your opinion and thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of knew that the deeper that we got into the weeds of, legalized sports gambling, that this something like this could happen. Now, I will say this one thing that, this isn't something that's new. This type of stuff, these betting scandals or, you know, um, and not in this instance point shaving, but point shaving scandals have happened before and they've been going on even before things were legalized. So it's not like this is something that was, became reality with the advent of legal sports gambling. But I think having gambling be such an integral part of all these leagues now. I mean, I think I was watching something on ESPN. ESPN, one of their programs is talking about the scandal and talking about, how it could be bad news for the NBA and all these potential ramifications. And in the meantime, while that's going on, there's a gambling ad scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So it's like, the toothpaste is way out of the tube. Nothing is going to go back to the way it was. But I think touching on what your point is, nothing's been proven yet. But there's the suspicion now of fans. There are official allegations, in an indictment from the FBI that this stuff happened. I think it's only going to fuel speculation from fans, whether in the NBA or in other sports, because we did see some investigations going on throughout the baseball season as well. That stuff's going on. It's underhanded. That guys are kind of gaming the system a little bit or doing things that they shouldn't. And I just think that is such a disastrous thing for pro sports and college sports when you have people convinced, right or wrong, that the outcome is not legit, that, things are being, the scales are being tipped in a certain way.
And here's the deal. I have said this before. The only thing that can take down the NFL is the NFL. So as long as they continue to not get involved in any of this, I think they're fine. I like the way they were proactive. A couple of years ago, there were people making fantasy bets. I think it was from inside an NFL building, and because of geo-tracking, they were able to, cover it. To me, though, I just think anytime that's there, and it seems like this continually happens in basketball. There was Tim Donaghy. There's been the college point shaving. It seems to be this is. I mean, I'm not foolish to think it's only going to be isolated to one sport, but it certainly seems, and the people that I know in NFL security, they are so careful and analytical. I think the NFL does a really good job of protecting themselves, but you never know. I mean, that's why they're called scandals.
Yeah, and the obvious reason, as I'm sure, like obviously why I think basketball is the easiest target is because it's the easiest place to get one person to impact the outcome of a game. You could have a defensive end in the NFL who's got money on the line or doing different things, but if they if they miss a tackle or they don't do their job on a play, it still may not work out if the guy behind them makes a play
Right.
they could miss a sack, but if the guy throws an interception, well, it didn't work out that way. Well, obviously basketball, guys play both ways. It's a back and forth game. You can really have that impact. But I do think, like you said, with the NFL, they need to hopefully avoid any type of involvement in something like this. I'm fascinated by where this is going to go next, because if you listen to some of what the FBI said, Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, this is a little bit of the tip of the iceberg. I think you're going to see some more. There were 30 something people, I think, indicted or arrested in with in this instance. And listen, the names that were named in the NBA: Terry Rozier, Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, I think, and Jonte Porter has obviously been banned by the league for his involvement in the betting scandal. I think people aren't foolish. They think they know that it could go deeper than that. So if it goes deeper than that, buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be huge. I was talking to someone today who made a point to me, and you and I are not old enough to remember this, but I guess back in the 50s, there was
Mm-hmm.
some scandals with some game shows that brought massive regulation from the
Mm-hmm.
government. And the person said to me, if this rocks one sport, they could see the government getting involved in that sport, but it better not affect all of pro sports. And I agree with them. All right, I want to switch directions. Two stories real quick. Let's talk about the first. We reported the Raiders have had a lot of interest in Maxx Crosby, multiple teams. I am told, talking to NFL people, that as many as 8 teams would be legitimate players for Maxx Crosby. There are 3 that I've been able to confirm who contacted the Raiders, and that's because of people there who, have told me that. I believe as many as 8 teams, but I can't confirm that. And the Raiders are staying put, and I think they should. Max is still in his prime. And if you look at a 2-year rebuild, meaning expecting in 27 to be a playoff team, I think he's still very viable in 2 years. I think this is smart. On top of it, he is the face of your franchise. He's one of only 2 players, and this is where I wanted to get to. He's not going to be available, even though there's a bunch of interest. He's staying a Raider. But he and Patrick Mahomes are the only 2 players I can think of in the entire NFL that are bigger than their franchise. The Raiders need Maxx Crosby more than Maxx Crosby needs the Raiders. He is the franchise. He's bigger than Tom Brady. He's bigger than Mark Davis. He's bigger than Pete Carroll. He's bigger than anyone. Patrick Mahomes, the same. I don't think there's anyone else in the league you can say that about. Am I wrong?
Myles Garrett, maybe with the Browns. You see what happened with him. But it's tough to think if there's anybody else really. There's a lot of guys. Obviously the big time quarterbacks, Josh Allen, guys like that are, it's so important to the franchise. But in the way you're describing it, I'm not really sure who fits that bill off the top of my head.
Yeah, I agree with you. The other one is that Mark Davis is not getting rid of Pete Carroll. I think this is the wise move. They're constantly making moves, getting rid of all the general managers, getting rid of the coaches, and you're never going to build anything if you don't stay on your path. They've got to show discipline here. Now, it doesn't mean that I would keep every coach, but yet people have bosses too. So I think you got to go through and say to every single coach, are you on the page with Pete, doing what Pete wants? If you're not, you're gone. And but I think that's a wise decision to say we're sticking with Pete. To me, you're not going to find anybody better.
Yeah, I think they got rid of Josh McDaniels after less than 2 full seasons. They got rid of Antonio Pierce after 1 full season as the full-time head coach. And now you made the commitment to Pete Carroll. I think you can't keep jumping around just because you've lost games. If something crazy is going on behind the scenes, or it's untenable, then maybe you have no choice. But if it's just because you're losing games or it's taking longer to build stuff, I would think you have to let this play out for a couple of more seasons to see if you can get a foundation laid. And how that ties into Maxx Crosby is, if he's not itching to get out, if it's not a situation where he wants to leave, then I don't think there's a situation where the Raiders should look to move him, because he's obviously still their best player. When his only issue has been he's been a little banged up, but he's obviously still their best player. He's one of the best players at his position in the league. And I think that, like you said, if 2027, say, is the target, he'll be 30 right at the start of that season, which is not, an ancient age. You'd think he'd still have a couple of really good years left.
I'm going to make a wild Maxx Crosby suggestion. All right. If I'm Mark Davis, I am going to look at Pete Carroll and John Spytek and tell them, I know that Max is going to be angry. I don't care. I'm not trading him, but I'm not playing him until he is 100% this year. We're not going anywhere. Let's not put wear on the tires. Let's let the guy take the rest of the year off, heal. He's been injured the last couple of years. Why take a risk at something being dramatic? And I simply say, until he's 110%, not 100, don't
Listen,
even
I
let the
know.
guy see the field. Tell me where I'm wrong, because I think that's a brilliant move. Listen, it's not tanking. It's literally saying, let's get some young guys some experience, and let's put Maxx Crosby. Listen, if Maxx Crosby's part of my vision for 27, then dadgummit, don't play the guy. He's already injured. Let him just spend the time. And listen, Max is my friend, and he is going to be so mad at me for saying this because that's not his nature. He wants to play. Don't
Sure.
play him. Tell me where I'm wrong.
No, I mean, this is a guy who didn't miss a game in his first 5 seasons in the league, and then he missed some last season, and he's not going to want to play and sit out. He's going to want to play, so it'll be tougher to convince him. But I think that the idea behind that scenario, is prudent, because you're looking at it like, now they have a bye, coming back off the bye, you see how he's doing, but. Listen, again, like you said, it's not tanking, but it's being kind of prudent, looking at it and saying, listen, we're not in a playoff race this year. We don't want to waste our bullets on this guy and risk him further injuring himself, when we don't need him to be out there. Again, it's going to take some tough convincing Max to agree, I would think, but I think the approach from Mark Davis there is sound. I think there would be a lot of Raider fans that would agree too, because I feel like there's a lot of fans of all teams that are struggling when they're, if there's a situation where could go either way with a player's health, they'll err on the side of letting the guy heal if the team's not doing well and are not in a playoff spot.
Let me say this, and I love Max, the human being. Okay, to me, he's the best defensive player in all the NFL. He's an elite player. He's a Jordan, Kobe, Magic type player. And he's going to be mad at me for saying this because I know how much he wants to play. But if I'm Mark Davis, I look him in the eyes and say, you could have went anywhere. You could have forced a trade. But you want to win a championship with the Raiders. I mean, for God's sake, his body is tatted in Raiders stuff. But Max, this is about 27. It's not about a year where we're not going to the playoffs. I'm not going to try to convince you. I'm the owner. I'm a billionaire. You're a millionaire. Sit your butt down. This is for your best interest. Just wait. This is for your best interest and for the promise I made you that we would compete for championships. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think he would be well within his rights as the owner, and well within it to, to sit the guy down and to have that conversation, because the best steps for a winning Raiders team in the future is with a fully healthy, fully at his best Maxx Crosby. So I think if you feel like that's the best way to do it now, it's certainly an interesting idea, I think, for Mark Davis to take a look at.
Maxx Crosby is a generational talent. And very few guys are the hardest working player of your team and the best at their position. And the guy practices like it's a game. This man, I mean, I always laugh. People say, "Oh, it's only about the money." No, it's not. He owns multiple multi-million dollar businesses. He's never going to be able to spend all the money he has. This is all for him right now about championships. And that's where you got to you don't deal with Max in dollars because he has enough of them. With Max, this is all about championships. All right, I want to switch angles here for a minute. Is it time to start believing in the Indianapolis Colts?
I think it is. I mean, listen, they have, you can look at their schedule and say, okay, they beat up on a lot of bad teams too, but they just handily defeated the Chargers, who are a potential playoff team, made the playoffs last year. Their offense is playing at a level of efficiency that, as good as we've seen in recent seasons, and the statistics back it up. There's a great sort of just a meshing, I would say, of the play offensively of the players there, the skill talent, the line, the quarterback, Daniel Jones, and the play caller, head coach, Shane Steichen. I think they have everything kind of clicking. Everything fits so well. And when you look at their schedule, they do have a tougher month of November. They play. I'm trying to think of who. Let me pull it up real quick. Okay, so they play. Their month of November starts at Pittsburgh. Then they play the Falcons at home, who are a frisky team. Actually, that game is overseas. So those games are kind of wild. And then they play after a bye, they play at Arrowhead, and then they finish the month off against the Texans at home. They're better than the Texans, but the Texans do have a good defense. And it's a divisional game, so that'll be a test. So they do have a tough November. But when you look at their schedule, they should move to 7-1 this weekend by beating the Titans. And then after that, this is a team that could be the 1 seed in the AFC, depending on how it plays out. And everything could run through, Indianapolis. So I think it's definitely time to start believing in them as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I would still make the Chiefs the favorite in the AFC. I would expect the Chiefs to beat the Colts at home when they do play them in the regular season, and I would give the Chiefs the advantage in a playoff game against the Colts, assuming everything continues trending this way for the Chiefs. But I think the Colts are a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
I said before the year I thought the Chiefs would win the AFC West again. When they struggled early, I said I still think they'll win it because they're going to get their receivers back. And listen, I just watched them beat a bad Vegas team, and Vegas helped them. Chip Kelly, his first quarter play calling was unfathomable to me. It literally made no sense. And talking to people around the NFL, I mean, Shannon and I are riding down the road, and a Super Bowl winning coach calls. I put it on speakerphone. And I'm not going to say everything we discussed, but he literally was like, this is why Chip gets fired in the NFL. He goes, you're going against a team whose weakness is against the rush, and you're throwing 80% of the time in the first quarter. It makes sense when the game's out of hand, but you come out throwing the football down your 2 best receivers. And the person said, that's Chip. He always thinks he's the smartest man in the room. And again, those are his words, not mine. But what was your thought? I mean, listen, I thought they were going to lose at Kansas City, not the butt kicking they got. And it was not just the loss wasn't shameful. It was how they lost. Like, here, let us help you kick our butt. The play calling to me was unfathomable by Chip Kelly. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, to me, I think also whenever you run the same amount of plays as the opposing team scores points, it's never a
No. That's not true. No. They had more points than the Raiders had
yeah.
plays.
So I think it was 31-30 or something like that. Yeah. So whenever that's like that, it's never a good sign. I think that, you know, it's one of those things where when you fall behind early, it's easy to kind of get pass happy, but they never got anything going, and they never really even tried to get any running game going, and they weren't able to do anything. I mean, to just see. I know the Chiefs do have a good defense. I know the Chiefs are clicking now, but to not be able to get anything established at all offensively, and even threaten, is really a glaring kind of blinking red light, so to speak, of saying something's not right here. We got to figure something out going forward because this team shouldn't be, even just going beyond last week, this team shouldn't be the 31st scoring offense in the NFL with the type of investments that they put in on that side of the ball.
$6 million a year offensive coordinator, the highest paid in the game. You go get the quarterback that you want, and your offense is worse than last year. When you fired Getsy, put an interim in, and had Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, and you're worse. And you're worse. In case you didn't hear me, they're worse. Make it make sense, man.
I can't really, and I'm looking at the play chart in front of me, and obviously,
let me ask you this one. Since you got
it's
the
just
play chart right in front of you, let me
yeah.
ask you this one. You go draft the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley. You're running him out of a pistol when you don't even have a fullback to help with Chris Jones penetrating against a team that struggles against the rush, and he gets one carry in the first quarter. I mean, I'm asking you an honest question here. Make this make sense, Matt, because when I talk to NFL people, they're literally calling me saying, what is going on in Vegas?
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the way it was. It wasn't like they were in third and long right away. The first drive starts, run on first down, second down completion for a first down to Trey Tucker. Then a short completion for 3 yards, 2nd and 7. You would think that might be a time where you might want to run it, 2nd 7, 2nd and medium, incomplete. Then you have to throw, and you get a holding, and then it's 3rd and 17. Then now the second drive starts. You're down 7-0, but it's still first quarter.
And you're trying to take the air out of the ball. You're trying to eat the clock.
On 3rd and 12, Gino got sacked, but there was an illegal contact penalty, which gave him a first down. So now you have a new set of downs, and it was 3 straight passes again. And then now you're down 14-0 the next time you get the ball. And that's when they tried running. They ran him a few times. Ashton Genty, there was an offensive offside penalty, but it just, I don't know, it was strange. It looked like again, I really didn't see much of the game, but from looking at the play chart,
it looked like panic. To me, it just looked like, oh my God, here we. And if your coaches, and I'm not saying they were, and let me say something here. I am a Pete Carroll guy. Okay, if I'm a Raider, that's my ride or die. That guy's resume screams, trust me, and I do. So I'm putting this where it belongs, and I'm not going to I'm going to wait till after the next ball game. The next ball game is going to tell me everything I need to know. When we come out of the bye, if this offense is as anemic as it was going into the bye, I've asked hard questions. They're going to get really hard. And I'm just saying it just isn't allowed. All right, let's move on because I want to get into one other subject before I let you out of here, but I'll be super quick with you. When you look at the NFL, what has been the biggest surprise of the year to you?
Well, I'm going to start with the Colts. I don't think anybody expected them to be 6-1. I think people thought maybe they could hang around and be a factor in that division, because I don't think anyone expected the division to have a runaway winner, but I didn't expect them to be 6-1. I don't think anybody expected this type of performance out of Daniel Jones, who's playing the best football, we've seen in his career. And so I think to me, they're definitely my biggest surprise, especially on the positive side of things. Looking at maybe what's surprising on the negative side, I don't know. I guess Baltimore, just because both everything's falling apart in Baltimore. I think that's been a shock to see. Obviously, the Lamar Jackson injury is making things worse, but things weren't going well there beforehand. So I would say the two biggest
Philly,
surprises to me are are in the
Indy, and
AFC.
Philly. Indy on the positive, Philly on the negative. Well, no, I'm going to be no. The biggest surprise to me has been Chip Kelly's offense, which didn't look like this at all during the preseason. But if I have to take Chip Kelly's offense out of it, it's Indy and Philly. Matt, it's always good. Tell everybody where to find you on Men's Journal.
Sure, you can find me at mensjournal.com or for all my articles, and you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, at Matt Haladik 919 at MATTHLADIK 919.
He's the best, everybody. Check him out, Matt Haladik.